My name is Michael Carter, and I've always held dear the sanctity of promises, the vows exchanged on bright summer afternoons, the whispered hopes in the dead of night. For years, my birthday had been a modest celebration among family, a few close friends, a quiet affirmation of life and love. At least, that's what I had believed. For my 35th birthday, my wife Amanda, with whom I'd shared 8 years of marriage, seemed unusually animated. In the weeks preceding the day, she darted about on secretive phone calls and errands, all while reassuring me with a gentle smile. Michael, trust me, this birthday is going to be unforgettable. I wanted to believe every word. The morning of my birthday arrived clear and promising. I awoke to the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with soft strains of music drifting from the kitchen. Amanda was already at work, her delicate fingers arranging a vase of wildflowers on the table, a detail that always reminded me of her graceful nature. I had no inkling then that the seemingly perfect day would soon unravel into a tangled web of deception. At the office, I was met with enthusiastic emails and warm wishes from colleagues. My lifelong friend, David Johnson, sent a text saying, "Happy birthday, Michael. Let's grab a drink later. I owe you one." David had been a steadfast presence since our college days, his sincerity a comforting constant. I smiled at his message, grateful for the uncomplicated loyalty that had defined our friendship over the years. After work, I returned home expecting the familiar calm of our small suburban apartment. Instead, I found the space transformed, soft string lights draped around the living room, and an elegantly set table for two adorned with crisp white plates and polished silverware. The room was imbued with the subtle fragrance of rosemary and lemon, a culinary triumph Amanda had boasted about mastering on several occasions. "Happy birthday, Michael," she greeted me warmly, wrapping me in an embrace that, for a fleeting moment, chased away any lingering doubts about the day's unfolding surprises. That evening, as we sat down for dinner, Amanda's eyes sparkled as she recounted the day's details with effortless charm. Her conversation, however, was marked by strategic omissions. She skillfully skirted around mentioning the errands that had kept her occupied. I listened intently, part of me admiring how she could infuse even mundane details with a sense of magic. Yet beneath the layers of laughter and rehearsed smiles, I felt a subtle unease, a quiet dissonance I couldn't quite place. Our dinner was interrupted by a call from Sarah Davis, a mutual friend known for her warm yet enigmatic manner. "Michael, happy birthday. I hope you're enjoying your day," she said in a tone that was both bright and cryptic, as if hinting at unspoken truths. Our brief conversation left me with the impression that Sarah sensed something beyond the surface. Each time I attempted to ask more, she deflected the conversation with remarks about work or the weather. It wasn't until later, replaying our exchange in my mind, that I began to wonder if Sarah had witnessed something that I had missed. As the night wore on, the celebration took on an intimate, almost hushed quality. I remained unaware that behind Amanda's carefully curated smiles and measured reassurances, a storm was gathering. Each gentle caress, every whispered promise, masked a secret so well guarded that even the keenest observer might have overlooked its subtle signs. I recalled the moment when Amanda hesitated ever so slightly as I mentioned plans with friends later that evening, a brief pause that, in hindsight, might have been more than a mere slip of the tongue. The following morning, buoyed by the afterglow of the previous night's festivities, I began to notice small anomalies in our daily routine. Glancing at Amanda's phone, I spotted an unsent text message, "Meet me tonight. I can't wait to see you." The message wasn't signed, and although I initially brushed it off as a leftover reminder from a busy day, a quiet alarm began to ring within me. At work, thoughts on the previous day's events returned to haunt me. I remember David's offhand remark about needing a drink together and Sarah's cryptic tone during our call. I struggled to piece together the fragments, yet each attempt to question the inconsistencies left me trapped between a desire to trust Amanda and an instinctive suspicion that something was amiss. I resolved to keep my doubts to myself for the time being. The last thing I wanted was to tarnish the beauty of my birthday with accusations that might later prove unfounded. In the ensuing days, Amanda's schedule grew increasingly erratic. She would slip away on meetings that she claimed were about planning future celebrations, or for late-night errands that she insisted were utterly harmless. Whenever I inquired, her responses were quick, soothing, and invariably punctuated with a kiss and a soft laugh that made it difficult for me to believe any alternative explanation. Yet in moments of solitude, when I sat alone with my thoughts, the facade began to crumble in my mind, revealing fissures in a life I had once thought flawless. It wasn't until the week's end that a seemingly offhand remark from Amanda shattered the fragile calm. While watching a movie together, she remarked casually, "Some people have more exciting birthdays than others." The words stung, not for their bluntness, but for the underlying implication that mine was somehow lacking. I laughed it off, attributing the comment to a fleeting lapse in conversation, but the seed of doubt had been planted deeper than I cared to admit. By the end of the week, subtle hints from David began to make their presence felt. During one of our quiet conversations, he asked, "Michael, you seem distracted lately. Is everything okay at home?" His concerned eyes searched mine, and I could only muster a small, reassuring smile, even as my heart pounded with the weight of secrets I wasn't entirely ready to confront. Unbeknownst to me, while I wrestled with the dichotomy of preserving an illusion, confronting emerging suspicions, Amanda had been orchestrating plans of her own. Her secret, concealed behind layers of charm and carefully selected words, was as tangible as the birthday gifts laid out on our table and infinitely more painful than I could ever have imagined. In those early days, I remained blissfully unaware that the celebration of my life was also the stage for an act of infidelity that would irreversibly change its course. That night, as I lay awake in the quiet hours, I replayed the day's moments, the smiles that seemed too practiced, the laughter that felt rehearsed, and the subtle hints of evasiveness. The perfect birthday, it appeared, was merely a prelude to a deeper unraveling, a slow, deliberate betrayal that would lead me on a path of both retribution and self-discovery. And yet, at that moment, I clung to the remnants of what I believed was genuine love, oblivious to the dangerous secret lurking beneath the surface. The day of my birthday had arrived with all the trappings of routine, bright light, promise, and a sense of comforting normality. But beneath that carefully polished veneer, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I woke in our quiet suburban home, expecting Amanda's usual warm smile to greet me. Instead, I found her in the kitchen, her back turned as she busied herself with what she called a special birthday surprise. Her tone was brisk, almost detached, a rehearsed cadence that did nothing to dispel the mounting unease of my chest. "Good morning, Michael," she said without pausing to meet my eyes. I forced a smile, replying, "Morning, Amanda. Everything all right?" She only hummed in response, stirring her coffee with a precision that bordered on mechanical. The day unfolded with a series of ritualistic moments, a quiet breakfast shared over sparse conversation, the exchange of small, thoughtful gifts, and the promise of an intimate dinner that evening. Yet, amid the orchestrated warmth, there was an undercurrent of dissonance, a subtle but growing distance that I struggled to ignore. Later that morning, while I was at work, my phone buzzed with a text from David. His message was terse. "Hey Michael, something feels off. Sarah mentioned she saw Amanda leave in a hurry last night. Call me when you can." A cold shiver ran down my spine. David had always been candid and sincere. If he was troubled, I needed to take his concerns seriously. During lunch, I attempted to reach Amanda by phone. She answered curtly, "I'm in a meeting, talk later." Her tone clipped and laced with an urgency that was distinctly out of character. That momentary hesitation, that subtle pause before ending the call, set off alarm bells in my mind. It was as if I had stumbled upon a secret too dangerous to acknowledge. As dusk fell and I returned, a mixture of anticipation and dread coiled within me. The house was dimly lit with soft fairy lights, and the lingering aroma of rosemary and lemon still floated in the air, a set piece for what was supposed to be a perfect birthday dinner. Amanda greeted me at the door with a smile that faltered for just a second. "Happy birthday, Michael," she said, extending a small, intricately wrapped box. Inside lay an expensive watch, a gift that, while generous, felt impersonal in a way that gnawed at my heart. We sat down for dinner at our elegantly set table. The clink of silverware and the soft murmur of background music did little to obscure the growing silence between us. I ventured, "So, Amanda, tell me about your day. You seem so busy lately. What were those meetings about?" Her laugh was light, but strained. "Oh, just some work stuff, Michael. You know how it is. I promise everything's fine." For a moment, her eyes flicked toward the living room, as if seeking an escape from the conversation. I noted the brief lapse in her gaze, a distraction that, in retrospect, would prove significant. Halfway for dinner, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Excusing myself, I opened the door to find Sarah Davis standing on our porch. Her expression was a blend of concern and hesitation. "Michael, I'm sorry to drop by unannounced," she said in a low tone, "but I need to talk to you about something." Inviting her into our softly lit living room, Sarah wasted no time. "I know today is your birthday, and I hate to bring bad news, but I saw Amanda earlier this afternoon. She was meeting someone outside a downtown cafe. I tried to ask her about it, but she dismissed it as a casual encounter with a friend." My heart pounded as her words sank in. "A friend?" I repeated, my voice betraying confusion. Sarah's sympathetic nod did little to alleviate my dread. "Michael, I've known Amanda for a long time, and something just didn't feel right. I didn't want to ruin your day, but you deserve the truth." I thanked her as her words echoed in my mind, leaving me to wonder if I had been blinded by the warmth of a day that was too good to be real. That evening, as the birthday celebration continued in a subdued, almost surreal manner, I remained unaware that behind every practiced smile, Amanda was concealing a truth that would soon upend my world. The hints had been there all along, the evasive phone calls, the anxious glances at the clock, the fleeting pause when I mentioned meeting friends later. But I clung to hope, unwilling to face the possibility that the perfect birthday was built on a foundation of lies. Late that night, in the solitude of my study, I discovered an envelope delivered by Kevin Miller, a colleague and friend of Amanda's from work, who had briefly visited our home earlier. He had introduced himself with a tight, apologetic smile, saying simply, "Amanda asked me to deliver this to you." In the privacy of my study, trembling hands tore open the envelope. Inside lay a series of printed photographs taken earlier that day. My breath caught as I recognized Amanda in each image, laughing, holding hands with a man whose face I did not know, captured in candid moments at that downtown cafe. The clarity of the images left no room for misinterpretation. They were undeniable proof of a betrayal that shattered the very foundation of my trust. Frantic, I dialed David's number. "David, I need you to come over," I managed to choke out. When he arrived, the concern etched on his face was unmistakable as I showed him the damning photos. "This isn't a misunderstanding, Michael," he said gravely. "We need to figure out what Amanda is playing at." In that moment, my birthday, the day I had once celebrated as a tribute to life and love, became the backdrop for a cruel deception. As the shock began to ebb, I replayed fragments of the day in my mind. Amanda's evasive phone calls, the anxious glances at her watch, the forced smiles that masked an inner turmoil. I resolved then that I could no longer remain passive. My birthday, once a symbol of cherished memories, had morphed into the day of reckoning. I needed answers. That night, after the initial shock had worn off and amid a flurry of conflicting emotions, I sat down with David and Sarah in the quiet solitude of my study. "I need to know why," I demanded, more to myself than to them. "Why would Amanda do this on my birthday?" Sarah's eyes filled with remorse as she replied softly, "Michael, I don't have the full story. Sometimes, people act on impulse in the heat of a moment, driven by emotions they can't control." David, ever the pragmatist, added, "Maybe she planned this all along. It was too calculated, the timing, the secrecy, it wasn't a mere mistake." As the night wore on, we pieced together every detail, analyzing each conversation and every suspicious message. The more I contemplated the events, the more I realized that Amanda's betrayal was not a spur-of-the-moment lapse but a meticulously orchestrated act of infidelity. Her secret meetings, the rushed departures, and those cryptic messages were all part of a design intended to shatter the illusion of our perfect life. Before the night ended, I made a silent vow. My next step would not be blind rage but a measured quest for truth, if necessary, the reclamation of my dignity. I decided that tomorrow, I would confront Amanda, demand a full explanation, if need be, exact a retribution that would ensure she understood the cost of her deceit. That night, as I lay awake in a darkness punctuated only by the images of betrayal, I realized that my birthday would forever be marked not as a day of celebration, but as the moment my ideal world crumbled. The journey ahead was shrouded in uncertainty and the painful prospect of vengeance, yet I knew that only by confronting the truth could I hope to reclaim my life. The next morning dawned gray and uninviting, mirroring the heavy despair in my heart. Every detail from the night before, the practiced smiles, the hushed conversations, and the damning photographs played in an endless loop in my mind. After a restless sleep, I met with David and Sarah over a somber breakfast, our shared silence a testament to the enormity of what had transpired. Finally, David broke the quiet. "Michael, you deserve answers. You've been patient long enough." His voice, steady but edged with anger, resonated deeply. Sarah added gently, "You don't have to face this alone. We're here for you, every step of the way." Drawing in a deep breath, I resolved, "I'm going to confront Amanda today. I need to know why she did this. Why choose my birthday of all days to betray me?" My voice wavered as the weight of the decision settled upon me. The words felt hollow, yet I couldn't retract them now. After breakfast, I found Amanda in the living room, her eyes glued to her phone as if lost in an alternate reality. I cleared my throat. "Amanda, can we talk?" I asked, my tone calm but determined. She set her phone aside with a hint of reluctance, leading me to her small study. Once inside, I took a deep breath and confronted her. "Amanda, I know about the photos, the secret texts, and the meeting at the cafe. I know everything." Her eyes widened for a split second before a pained expression replaced her shock. "Michael," she began, but I interrupted her. "No more excuses. I deserve to know why you did this." My voice trembled with fury and sorrow as I demanded answers. For a long moment, she stared at me, her eyes filled with regret, and finally, in a whisper, she said, "I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen like this. I thought it would just be a brief escape, a mistake I could control." I scoffed, leaning forward. "A mistake? On my birthday? Was I so disposable that you'd use this day to chase after a fleeting thrill?" Amanda's eyes welled with tears as she struggled to meet my gaze. "Michael, I was lost. I felt trapped by the monotony of our life, the endless routine that left me feeling invisible. I needed to feel alive again, even if it was just for a moment." Her voice cracked as she continued, "I never wanted to hurt you. I never intended for any of this to happen." Before I could respond, there was a soft knock at the study door. I paused, and through the slightly ajar door, I recognized Kevin Miller, Amanda's work friend who had earlier delivered the envelope. His face was etched with concern as he stepped into the room. "Michael, I'm sorry to intrude on your birthday," he said with a tight smile, "but Amanda asked me to give you something else." Kevin reached into his briefcase and produced a sealed envelope, sliding it into my trembling hand before excusing himself with a hurried goodbye. Later, alone in the study, I opened the envelope. Inside, I found additional photographs, each one capturing Amanda in moments of intimacy with a man I did not recognize, a man whose presence in her life was now undeniable. The evidence was overwhelming, my hands shaking. I called David once more. "David, I need you here again," I said. When he arrived, his eyes reflected a mix of sorrow and steely resolve. "Michael, this isn't just a misunderstanding," he said quietly. "This is premeditated betrayal." I nodded, feeling the sting of both anger and heartbreak. Amanda's confession soon deepened. With tears streaming down her face, she murmured, "His name is Jason Reed. I met him at work. He was charming, attentive, and for a brief period, I believed he understood me in ways you never could." I felt a burning anger surge through me. "So this escape you craved was with Jason Reed?" I asked bitterly. "What about us? What about everything we built together?" Before Amanda could respond, there was another knock at the door. Through the gap, I recognized a face I'd seen only once before, a man named Patrick Allen, introduced to me as another of Amanda's acquaintances. With a downcast expression, Patrick entered the room. "Michael," he began hesitantly, "I'm sorry to intrude. I felt you should know something important." His voice was quiet, laden with reluctance. Amanda wasn't acting alone. "There's another man, someone she's been meeting regularly. His name is Patrick Allen." Amanda's eyes widened further, and she reached for Patrick as if pleading him to spare her the truth. "I never wanted any of this to hurt you, Michael," she pleaded. "I felt trapped and invisible in our life. I thought I could experiment, feel powerful, wanted, even if just for a moment." My voice, thick with disbelief, trembled as I asked, "How could you let it come to this? Two men on the side, and you chose my birthday to reveal your true self." Patrick's expression was grim as he continued, "I'm not here to defend her, Michael. I'm here because I believe Amanda was coerced. There's more to this story. A man named Patrick Allen isn't the one you should fear alone. There's another force at work here." His cryptic words left me reeling with questions. Amanda, sobbing uncontrollably now, managed to whisper, "Michael, I was not entirely in control. I felt suffocated by our routine, and, in my desperation, I made choices that have destroyed everything." My heart pounded with both rage and sorrow as I struggled to reconcile the woman I loved with the stranger before me. In the suffocating silence that followed, Sarah stepped forward, her voice gentle yet firm. "Michael, I know this pain is unbearable, but please remember, revenge may seem tempting, but it will only chain you to this sorrow. You must decide what you truly need." I stood there, torn between the urge to lash out and the need to reclaim my own identity. "I don't know what the future holds," I murmured, "but I cannot let this betrayal define me. I need time to figure out if forgiveness is even possible or if I must forge a new path without you." Amanda's tearful eyes pleaded for understanding, but I couldn't allow myself another moment of weakness. "I'm sorry, Amanda," I said quietly, "but I can't just forget this. Today was meant to celebrate us, but now it stands as the day our illusions shattered." After Sarah and Kevin left, leaving Amanda and me alone in that heavy silence, the truth was laid bare. Amanda sank into a chair, overcome with regret, while I stood motionless by the window, watching the early morning light cast harsh shadows across the room. In that final moment, the illusion of our perfect life dissolved, replaced by a brutal clarity that allowed no room for half-truths. I walked slowly to the door, pausing to glance back at the woman I once knew. "Goodbye, Amanda," I said softly, my voice echoing in the empty space. I understood then that the road ahead would be long and filled with painful memories. Yet, with every step, I vowed never to allow someone else to determine my self-worth again. In the following days, my life split into two distinct paths, one marred by grief and regret, the other fueled by a burning need for retribution. The day's revelations had not only exposed Amanda's betrayal but had also unmasked the hidden fractures in our once sacred bond. I withdrew into solitude, haunted by memories of our shared past, while David and Sarah remained by my side, urging me to reclaim control over my destiny. Late one rainy night, as I pored over digital records, call logs, text messages, and social media posts, I began piecing together the intricate tapestry of Amanda's secret life. Every hidden message, every cryptic schedule entry, confirmed that her infidelity was not an impulsive lapse but a calculated venture into a double life. Determined to reclaim my dignity, I hired a discreet investigator to trace every connection between Amanda, Jason Reed, and the mysterious Patrick Allen. With each piece of evidence gathered, the betrayal grew more complex, revealing a network of deceit that spanned months, if not years. One evening, I arranged to meet a trusted mutual friend, Stephen Cook, a man known for his blunt honesty and unwavering loyalty. At a quiet diner on the outskirts of town, Stephen slid into the booth with a stack of printed documents. "Michael, I've seen disturbing things lately," he said solemnly. "Amanda's been seen with Patrick far more often than she lets on. And there are whispers that Jason Reed wasn't her true desire. Something else was pushing her into this web of lies." His words cut deep, fueling the fire of betrayal within me. "I want her to know I won't silently accept this," I told him, voice steadying with resolve. "I need to expose the truth, so no one can ever manipulate me again." Stephen nodded gravely. "Michael, remember, This isn't just about hurting her, it's about ensuring she understands the consequences of her choices. Expose the truth publicly in a way that leaves no doubt. With that counsel, I embarked on the next phase, a meticulously orchestrated confrontation with both Amanda and community that had once admired our seemingly perfect life. I reached out to a local journalist known for exposing corruption and scandal. In a series of discreet meetings, I laid out the damning evidence of Amanda's double life, the secret rendezvous, unexplained expenses, and a hidden network of deceit. I made it clear, this wasn't a personal vendetta, but a cautionary tale of betrayal that would shake the foundations of trust in our close-knit community. On the day the article was published, the fallout was immediate. The detailed, fact-based report painted Amanda not merely as an unfaithful wife, but as a woman who had meticulously planned her betrayal, choosing my birthday as the stage for her calculated escape from a life that no longer satisfied her. The scandal sent shockwaves through our small town, and soon Amanda found herself ostracized by friends and colleagues alike. In the days that followed, I arranged one final meeting with Amanda at the very cafe where the incriminating photos had been taken. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with unspoken sorrow and regret. "Amanda," I said quietly as we sat in a secluded corner, "you knew exactly what you were doing. You chose a day meant for celebration to betray me." Her eyes, once defiant and now sorrowful, held only remorse. "Michael, I never meant to cause you this pain," she whispered. "I was lost, and I made choices I now regret." I shook my head, the bitterness of betrayal still raw. "Regret won't mend what's been broken," I replied softly. "My entire life was built on trust and love. Today, that trust has been irreparably shattered." Walking away from that final conversation, I felt a cold clarity settle over me. The path of revenge was murky and painful, but in exposing her deceit, I had reclaimed a measure of my dignity. The road ahead would be long and lonely, scarred by memories of what had been and what might have been. Yet with every step, I vowed never again to let someone else decide my worth. In the quiet aftermath, I began to rebuild a new life from the ruins of betrayal, a life defined not by revenge, but by the strength found in facing painful truths and moving forward. The community slowly shifted its focus from scandal to introspection, and even Amanda's defenders began questioning the secrets that had so long been hidden. I learned that true strength lies in confronting heartbreak and using that pain to forge a better future. Now, as I gazed toward the horizon, the scars remained permanent reminders of a past filled with deception and shattered promises. Yet every scar tells a story of survival, of a man who refused to let betrayal dictate his destiny. With a clear mind and a steady heart, I stepped forward into a future where truth, however painful, leads to renewal and hope.